Hello, survivors. Welcome back to the garage, the waste's vault of knowledge. You're watching the most in-depth and useful show for every true fan of Crossout. Subscribe now and don't forget to click the bell icon, never to miss another episode full of good stuff straight from the devs. Load your guns, people. We're rolling out. For a long time, for reasons unknown, Desert Valley was a restricted zone. Some say that many years ago a secret plane was flying over it, carrying aboard some extraterrestrial cargo, which scientists tried to urgently move out of the lab in the south. Suddenly, a sandstorm happened, though without usual lightnings and whirlwinds. The plane fell, and several hours later, machinery arrived on the scene to get something valuable if possible from the wreckage. But they didn't come back, while the sent drones went out of order. Yet more people arrived later to set up a camp off the scene, but an unexpected explosion thundered across the desert. The scene has been closed off. Years passed. The wind blew the sand, uncovering the wreckage of the plane as well as the helicopter cabins and machine parts. Now, Desert Valley is controlled by the lunatics. Pete, the faction leader, put up an outpost and transports fuel through there while organizing dune races in the evening. The lunatics stole all the remaining valuables, transformed the cabins into homes, and put the watchtowers along the perimeter, not really caring much for where the scraps came from. They decided against stealing the plane wreckage, since it was too heavy. The survivors often drop by the valley looking for valuables. However, there's not much left apart from stones and twisted wreckage. The Desert Valley map is intended for PvP battles. Snipers are in for a treat here. It's an open location, very much exposed to the long-range fire. This doesn't mean, however, that close-range fighter vehicles are useless. Rocks and wrecks sticking out all over the place provide a good opportunity of hiding and coming close to the enemy. Opening phases of a battle are usually fast. It's rare that someone takes up sniper positions since survivors commonly focus on close-range battles and base takeovers. However, high-level gamers' fights turn into extremely rigorous long-distance duels with rockets and cannon shots searing through the air. Some survivors prefer driving vehicles equally suitable for any distant fire. While getting ready for the battle in Desert Valley, you might want to equip your heavy ride with a couple of guns and a scope. Thus, you will be able to control a wider territory, while still being at the base. If you plan on fighting with the snipers, you'd better use a chameleon module alongside contact weapon. Bear in mind that it's harder to sneak in on an enemy than to battle from afar. Long-range rides are favored by many players, but this is exactly why there is a good chance of gaining advantage by ingeniously deploying an alternative tactical approach. Gigantomaniacs rejoice. Today we're talking about monstrous rides, Leviathans. Designers work hard on this one, and now we're gladly showing the best finds. Should you find anything like that, don't hesitate writing the name in the comments. Who knows, these heavy rides might just appear in the garage. This one possesses a traditional tank composition, which is not common in Crossout, especially among Leviathans. They're usually modeled as creeping platforms with an array of weapons, everything for the sake of effectiveness. Tank Player 4 is an art craft. The aesthetic here is more important for a designer than the combat potential. That's obvious. The ride looks massive and formidable, both in the garage and on the battlefield. We have already featured some art crafts here. Consider Katyushka from the previous episode. However, the author of this dreadnought has left a lot for improvement. There's a trucker cabin in Tank Player 4, hidden deep inside the vehicle, alongside a heavy generator, a cabin, and a Leviathan common 50-point bonus. The total energy level exceeds 60 points. The author used a little more than half of it. You can use the rest at your own discretion, boosting combat effectiveness. The craft is not very durable, only 2,500 health points, and usually appears at the first stage of a battle. It might look like an easy target, but is actually capable of springing a couple of surprises. Instead of a caterpillar belt, it has 5 pair of wheels, so that you can sacrifice some of them in a battle with no loss of mobility. Tank player 4 leaves turrets behind itself, covering its 6. Thing is, there's no weaponry on the backside. Vector and rapier guns won't allow the enemy to stay in the blind area for long, which the heavy ride frame creates. 10 common heaters and 1 advanced allow for non-stop shooting with any installed gun. The .76 Judge takes a straight aim at the attacker but loses some efficiency due to engineering aspects. Wherever a Caterpillar-based vehicle can turn and correct the gunnery course right where it stands, a wheel-based one is forced to fidget back and forth. This aspect interferes with the normal work of any installed gun. Cancer Ship is a classical example of a land-based battleship. 8 blocks of Caterpillar are adjusted in such a way that it's hard to turn the vehicle over. It's pretty much impossible to think of a power capable of overthrowing this monster with nearly 5,000 points of structure. It'll be waiting for you either in the second or third phase. Stylistically, Cancer Ship really is a ship, composed of several graded decks. Its weaponry overlooks all sides of the ride. This dreadnought is tough to attack unpunished. 4 turret guns fire any direction. 2 mammoth guns look both front and back. On the hull rear, there's a Hurricane homing missile launcher discouraging anyone from attacking the backside. On the bow, there is an equalizer minigun. However, its power is dismal compared to other guns. Right on the very top, on the boards, there's a pair of Spectre 2 parallel miniguns protecting the ship from bombers and light combat copters. In the center of the ship, there's a Mandrake gun hidden. It looks up for a reason, probably being one of the most dreadful surprises. Leviathan attacks right from first appearing on the map, while raiders don't even see it. Soon it'll be too late. Those survived will be shot at by as many as 6 guns. At the same time, the Cancer Ship is miserably clumsy, riding a little bit faster than a steamroller. The designer has done pretty much everything so that you don't really need to move around. However, the fastest buggy's not scared of coming closer to the dreadnought might deal it some significant damage. Scavengers belong to the lowest branch of the Brotherhood military organization. However, in reality, they bargain with everyone. They unearth old military bases, cut containers open, and even dissect whole factories. Everything that works is transferred up the chain or sold on the black market. Anything that's left is mended and welded to the rides. The loot is transported on trucks, armored with the wreckage containers, pipes, and other heavy rummage. Scavengers use World War guns for weaponry. Their leader is Scar AB. He's traveled a lot and seen a lot. Survivors say that he's got as far as the Western Sea. He's been into different factions, making it to decent ranks in Khaganate, and lost his leg in a dispute with Khan. As a result, he was forced to run over the hills with the loot, which turned out enough to bargain a soft spot in the Brotherhood and also a decent prosthesis. However, later, due to his ill temper, Scar was exiled back to the West, or to be more exact, sent there with an important mission as the leader of a scavenger vanguard. Bay was more than happy with it. He could easily exchange his loot on the black market while the headquarters closed its eyes to it, as long as he fulfilled the norm. Now, Scar is relaxed a bit and engaged more in collecting, although he never really mentions exactly why he needs those fancy artifacts, which he later exchanges for some quite valuable stuff on the market. Scavengers are the locusts of the waste. Abandoned buildings with at least something remaining turn into ruins after the scavengers visit. Those guys are interested in everything that could be sold or attached to the vehicles. These marauders don't care about the looks of the rides. so you can see all kinds of stuff on their crafts. Iron gates welded to cabins, plant tubes attached, bits and pieces of containers, and molds of steam trains on top. Scavengers ain't squeamish about anything for the sake of power and damage. Anything valuable is immediately sold on the black market. Due to the diversity in accessories, practically all Scavengers' crafts look different from each other. Oh, you need a jeep with guns aboard? Here you go. Even 2 of those. A truck? Well, here it is. 2 turrets and a launcher come in the bundle. Oh, it's a tank that you're looking for? Easy, they got that too. And don't forget, the latest faction craft, the Rock, which is basically a mobile fortress with homing missiles and a huge gun on the roof. The downside here is its speed and its limited ammunition count. You won't necessarily catch up with your enemy on this one, but with such weaponry capable of delivering such huge damage and with significant armor, you really don't need this. So, count your ammo. Scavengers never let the first-timers come near their workbenches. Renting the first one of those requires level 10 and at least 25 gold coins. Rare grade, epic, and legendary parts are available for craft. One can't pass over the trucker cabin without the first category. It's one of the toughest in the game, inferior only to the humpback and the shell. Unlike its counterparts, which aren't easy to obtain, the trucker comes together from several regular parts, junk metal and copper. One can craft lots of powerful weaponry on an epic Scavenger's workbench. A rocket turret is quite like the combat one, but has an increased number of structure points and deals more damage. AGS-55 launcher Impulse is rather weak, but way more suitable for the close-range battles than all the rest of the guns within this faction. Scavenger's all-time favorite weapon is the Pyre. Whenever there is powerful weaponry aboard, it's safe to say there's a couple of these homing missile launchers. There's no wide choice of parts on the legendary workbench, only 2 to be exact, the Hurricane and the Mammoth. The first one is a long-range gun which you don't even need to aim. One salvo launches 4 homing missiles with IR guidance, automatically choosing closest enemies. The long-range Mammoth turret gun shoots any direction, and with each direct hit, amplifies the next shot by 20% during the next 10 seconds. If you don't miss, the effect lasts for 3 times in a row. Apart from the amplified damage, the Mammoth boasts of the highest structure point number of all the game's weaponry. Let's just say 1,167 points is a lot. One ought to choose the Scavengers if they're ready to sacrifice speed in favor of protection and increased damage. The diversity of Ray-made craft is impressive too. You'll rarely find such a decent example among other factions. And you can definitely advise on the trucker's cabin. Believe me, it'll bail you out more than once. A new week has granted us a new bunch of hotspot questions from the gamers. Here we go. Can we ever get rare blue replicas of the flamethrower or the scorpion? These replicas won't be added in the nearest future. However, right now, we're concentrating on developing a brand of new faction with some unique weaponry and parts. Hello everybody! Why is there a week scrap limit? It's annoying. All the limits set in Crossout are extremely important, since they guarantee smooth progression of the player on their way to the highest levels. Scrap limit prevents the market from being flooded with tons of equipment, as well as precludes the possibility of abuse by different cheat programs. Why did you guys add limited time crates and remove the loot and DIY crates? The amount of details obtained from free containers made the crafting less profitable. After this update, the influence of the free containers has decreased, allowing the players to craft more and earn more. We've received the players' feedback regarding these changes, and we're currently working on changing a number of aspects in the container system. Well, that's it for today, survivors. The show will return in a week from now, ever ready for new adventures in the post-apocalyptic wastes of Crossout. Don't hesitate to ask all your questions in the comments, And do me a favor, will ya? Tell your friends about this show. We can always use some new drivers. Be seeing ya.